Well, yeah, you're saying that. You took all my money. You know what? Little me was onto something. Like, that's a cute name. And then I made the most I'd ever made. I was like, this is crazy. Don't get me started on this. Wow, you're so inconsiderate for saying that.
Welcome to Art Talk Connect. This is episode number 9. We're here with Monica. She is from Multicolored Mind. She is an awesome artist, and I'm going to turn it over to her and let you all know how she basically started her art journey.
That is so open-ended. I'm gonna go ahead and try explain it. So hi, I'm Monica. I'm the artist that runs Multicolored Mind. Previously, Hartle Design. I had a name change last year, partially because it sounded like I was a graphic designer, and so people were getting kind of confused. So I went with my 12-year-old screen name instead because I was like, you know what? Little me was onto something. Like that's a cute name. So I started my Etsy shop in 2020 during the pandemic, and I was just drawing my bearded dragon Felix, and I had one sticker in the shop. And then I decided, you know what, this is pretty cool. And every time I sold enough to afford another sticker, I would add one onto the shop, and it just snowballed into doing like pins and keychains and bags and plushies and so many different things. And I do this full time now. But yeah, I do a lot of like in-person conventions, a lot of online sales. It's a ton of fun.
Especially when like people start getting to know you and they're like, "Oh, I know you. I've seen you at this one and that one."
Yeah,
It's
it's my favorite. And I'm really good with faces, not so good with names. So a lot of times people that come up, I'm like, oh yeah, I saw you at this convention 2.5 years ago. And they're like, yeah.
right.
And it's like everybody's like, that's weird. But no, it's like so fun reconnecting with people. It's my favorite part of doing the shows in person, honestly. Because when you do the online sales, like you get reviews, you get comments, but there's nothing compared to a person seeing your artwork and then freaking out.
Yeah.
Like they're like, "Oh my God, I need this. I love this." And it's so wonderful. I've had a few times where somebody comes up and they say, "Oh, this is my favorite booth here all weekend. This is my favorite thing that I've seen all weekend." And that just always makes me so happy. It makes it like, well, I'm glad I came here, because sometimes you don't make a lot of the shows. And so it's really great to have the positive reinforcement.
Now, what made you start with stickers?
It's so easy to get into, and I had a Cricut at the time. And so I thought, wow, it'll be really affordable to just make stickers at home on my Cricut. Well, actually, it's way more expensive than getting them professionally manufactured. And so that's my advice for people starting out and they're like, I want to get into stickers. Have them manufactured. Don't do that to yourself. You don't want to be like me, a show every weekend, and then you're like, oh my God, I need to make stickers in the 4 days that I'm home every week, because that is a nightmare. Typically, you can have the stickers manufactured for a really affordable price, and then they're really durable. So yeah, it's something you can get into for less than $100. So if you're just starting out as an artist, it's less intimidating. Unlike enamel pins, which is like hundreds of dollars per design just to get started.
Um,
Yeah, because I mean, just a mold fee is typically $200. And that's not even any product. It's just the metal that they cast it in. So yeah, stickers is always a safe starting point for sure.
the mold feet. Oh, the mold feet.
Mold fees are brutal. They take me out. Like,
Oh my
it's like
gosh.
where all my money goes. That, and now that I do plushies, child safety testing, because that is so expensive. You have to get your stuff safety tested.
Really?
I think my most recent order, the safety testing was $900. It's just for them to light them on fire and say, guess what? They burn. But they also make sure that they don't have any dangerous chemicals in them, make sure that the manufacturers are following safe practices, so it's important. But I use a very reputable manufacturer. When she told me about the testing, I was like, wait, they can fail testing? Like I had no idea. I was already like thousands of dollars in. I was like, what happens if they don't pass? And she was like, they're gonna pass. We don't make things that don't pass. And I was like, oh.
So if they don't,
Yeah, I was like freaking out. I was like, well, yeah, you're saying that. You took all my money. But no, they're very trustworthy and I've never had an issue. All my stuff is age rated like 0 plus.
what made you get into the plushies if it has like such a high financial risk attached to it?
I always thought that the fruit frogs would be cute as stuffed animals. I just love them so much, and they've always been like the heart of my business. And I looked into it once and was like, nope, I don't know how to start this. I don't know how to get into this. It's so confusing and complicated. And so I just kind of like let it go, and it wasn't really on my mind. And then I had a friend, Uni and Umi, her name's Jessie. She's the artist with that company, and she got the most adorable plushie made. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I was like, so where'd you get it made? And then I ordered a sample from that same manufacturer. And when it came, I just loved him immediately. I was like, oh my God, Barry, my son. And then I was like, well, I made the sample for me. I can't afford to make them. And then I brought Barry over to my 2-year-old niece, and I saw the way that she reacted to him. Like she hugged him and just would not give him back. And she was yelling ribbit and making him hop, and she just loved him so much. It was like the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh no, like I need to make these. I need to bury myself in debt if that's what it takes because I love them so much. I was able to run a Kickstarter, which was very helpful. It still only ended up covering about half the cost, but I really don't mind that. Kickstarter just kind of takes some of the weight off for me.
How did you market and get people to donate to your Kickstarter?
I was very out of touch with Kickstarter marketing for a long time because I used to run it for like every enamel pin I did because of those insane mold fees. But those would be like a couple $100 for the Kickstarter goal. That's a lot different than trying to raise like 5,000, which to some people that's not a big deal, but like to me that's a big deal. That's a lot of money. That was more than I'd ever had to like crowdfund before. So I actually went to other artists that I had met at conventions that had run Kickstarters to get a lot of advice, which I always recommend. Always ask people. Um, and the writer of the Lycan comics, his name's Dennis Robinson, he runs Hivehead Studios. He gave me so much advice, including like printing out postcards that have a picture of the product on the front, a description and a timeline on the back. Like so that when people leave at the show, they don't forget the item. Because it's like you get a million business cards, but it's like it's a card that has everything on it. I just did like a standard postcard, and then I would hand those out to anybody who showed interest. And I also, while I was doing tables, like at shows, I had the samples with me. So people could see them, feel the quality of them. Because there's a lot of like blind trust when you're doing Kickstarter. It's like, well, I hope these are as high quality as they look. And a lot of people who had followed me online saw them in person and were shocked at how big they were. They were like, oh, I thought they were so much smaller. I didn't realize they'd be so soft. And so I got a lot of sales that way. And this is just a side note. I model a lot of my business practices after businesses that inspire me. So one of those businesses was Fluff Nest, rest in peace. They plushied too close to the sun. They ran a Kickstarter that went for like $2 million, and it was the end of the company because it was just too much for them to fulfill. Yeah, which is like a thing you didn't even think about happening. But anyway, that's a whole, I could get down that rabbit hole so hard. One of the things that I loved about when I ordered their plushies was that they came with little care sheets. Like they had a sheet that said how to wash the plushie, and they were always vacuum sealed. So it said to fluff them up and give them 24 hours. And I was like, that's good because I think if I didn't know any better and I got this in the mail, I'd be like, my plushie's all ruined, like it's all squished. So I made care sheets myself. I drew myself choking out Barry, and I said, you got to reshape him because he might be squished down from transit. And it says the wash instructions and everything. And then on the back, it has how to find me and my email if you need any help. People are like blown away when I hand them the card, which is like, because when they buy them at a show, I hand it to them in person. If they order it online, it comes with their order. And then I was actually promoting the Kickstarter in another creative way, which was at a show I didn't get into, Colossal Con East, which is a huge anime convention. Loved it. It's so fun. But I didn't get in, and I was like, I'm free this weekend. I'm just gonna walk around with all my plushies in my arms. And then when people complimented them or asked about them, I just handed them a card for the Kickstarter. And I was like, oh, I'm trying to raise money for these. And I was also promoting them by giving out friendship bracelets that said all the plushies' names. So when people complimented them, I'd be like, which one's your favorite? And then I would give them a friendship bracelet that matched that. And then somebody said like, "Oh, do they come with friendship bracelets?" And I was like, "Well, they do now." Because like I was like, "This is bordering on false advertising." But they do now. They all come with a friendship bracelet that says their name. This is Clyde the Blueberry's friendship bracelet. So I know that this isn't necessarily Kickstarter advice, but finding these creative little things that make the plushies like stand out against, going to Walmart and picking out the first thing you see. Like that's always important with all of the art we sell.
Makes sense. Makes sense. This is good advice. What was that light bulb moment that made you decide that you wanted to be a full-time artist?
It was at my first convention, because I was like, man, I just don't know if there's any money in this. I was always making like a little bit of money here and there with my online sales. I was happy to make like 50 bucks a month on my online sales, which is obviously not enough for rent. So, um, I went and I did that free market at Colossal Con East, which was if you're near a Colossal Con, they do free markets that you can set up at, and you get 3 feet of space, and it's wonderful because it's like if you're just getting into it and you don't really have a table set up, it's not as intimidating, and there's not a big financial burden like a $500 table. So I went and I did that, and I thought like maybe I'll make a couple $100. And then I made the most I'd ever made. I was like, this is crazy. I think I think I made like 1,500 bucks or something. And I was like, this is insane. Like I was like, in one day selling pins, like this is crazy. I was like, are you saying that this is a thing that I could do for a job? And so then I just started putting all my eggs in that basket. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look at the tables that I love and see what advice I can get from them. And I ask artists for advice every show, it feels like. I'm never afraid to just go up and say, like, your setup is amazing. What advice do you have for me? This last show that I did, I went up to somebody and I was like, oh my God, you have a huge following. What's your advice? And she was like, you're not gonna like it. You gotta post on Instagram every day. And I was like, "Ah, anything but that, please." I'm just so bad at consistently posting. But yeah, there's always like somebody always knows more than you at these things. That's something to remember. Like I'll never go to these events thinking, "Oh, I know so much," because I learned so much from the other artists every time.
Yeah, it's very important to like network with people next to you and basically pick their brain. A lot of people I found actually they're more open to talking to you. A lot of people say they're guarded, they don't want to talk to you, they kind of want to keep their secrets to themselves.
Yeah, there is a lot of that still. But there's so many friendly people that make up for it.
Now, what did you do to prepare yourself for that leap from like leaving a traditional 9 to 5 to becoming a full-time artist? Anything that you had to prepare financially or anything like that?
Well, obviously, you don't want to just like quit your job and be like, you know what, I'll make it work. I was really lucky in that like I had an affordable place to live where I'm still living. I also had my vehicle paid for at like I was ready to go in terms of that. It's not like I had some huge amount of debt or anything. I really was just like, you know what, I got con scheduled. I could always get my job back. I'll just quit. Which is like, I don't recommend doing that. Like, don't take that advice. Don't be like me because I'm lucky it worked out, because at the time I was a joint income and now it's just me. So it's like a big difference to be a full-time artist when you're a part of a team and you can afford things together because you're both working. And now it's like I'm a full-time artist, but thankfully I've grown enough that it's not really a problem. It's just I'm making about what I would have been making at my previous job, I think. So I'm lucky in that way. I should have prepared more. So I'm gonna say, wow, do some research on that before you quit your job. Don't be like me, because like, what's healthcare? How am I gonna get that?
Yeah, people don't think about like the little things when they do that.
Yeah, and then you break your leg and you don't have healthcare. Luckily, I was still on my previous plan, but it was like, oh my God, I was considering not even getting healthcare. Like, and then I broke my leg, and it was like $280,000. Yeah. Healthcare is important.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a trap. Don't get me started on this.
We will not get you started down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, literally. Anybody wants to hear me talk for an hour? Let's talk. Let's talk healthcare. I'm so mad.
Well, let's look at your art. I'm going to pull up your Instagram. So, yeah. So, what actually made you want to do animals?
I'm a big nerd. So when I was a kid, I was really into animals and animal facts and frogs specifically. And I used to be like, "Oh, I'm cool now. I don't like frogs anymore," whenever I grew up. And it just came back to me. And I was like, "Actually, I love I love frogs. I love amphibians and reptiles and the trip like traditionally unloved creatures are my favorite." Poison dart frogs are my favorite animal. So the fruit frogs are all based on those. I love whenever I'm doing some obscure reptile and somebody comes up and they're like, "It's my baby," because they never get to see stuff of their babies. Like I just did a tarantula, which I feel like you don't see a lot of. Um, but yeah, I just love doing unusual critters. Lots of possums. Possums and frogs are the same, just in different fonts. And I feel like people will understand that. Like, if you know, you know.
Wow.
My booth, she was rough when I first started. She's grown a lot.
That's cool. Do you make those like the packaging too?
I do a lot of it, yeah. So I still have that cricket that I mentioned at the beginning. And I do use that for a lot of stuff with the table, but nothing that I sell or like would have to mass produce. Like I order business cards and flyers because that's just way too much to do at home.
What made you decide to go with like this kind of branding style? It seems like very like bright and vibrant.
In terms of like a style with either the brand or even just like an art style in general, my advice for people is to always look at what you're buying. What are you buying all the time? And I was like, man, when I go to the show, I see a pink tablecloth and I run because I'm like so excited to see a pink tablecloth. I'm like, they're gonna have stuff that I love. And so that was a must for me. I was like, I gotta have a pink tablecloth because I want colorful things, lots of feminine things. And the other thing with like looking at other people's styles is like I was buying a lot of frogs, buying a lot of possums, buying a lot of stuff, and that's kind of the thing is I was like, well, obviously I'm interested in it, you know? So that's kind of where things started to come together. But the table had like no rhyme or reason at the beginning. You kind of just grow into it over time. Where I used to have like this, it was a shower curtain. I'll be straight up. It was a shower curtain, but it had like a rainbow on it, and I really loved the rainbow idea. And then I came across this regular window curtain that was like a pastel rainbow, and that's what I'm using on my table right now because I just love pastels so much. And I had happened to make my new branding banner a pastel rainbow, and it just all matched, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." Yeah, so if anybody walks by my table, that's just a Walmart curtain hanging out on my table, but it looks so good. You can't even tell.
These miniatures are really cool.
Oh my God, I'm addicted to building minis. Yeah, these are like kits that you can get. And it's so satisfying. Plus, I love any opportunity to show off my nails.
I can see that.
Yeah, those are the longest ones I ever had. They're insane. I've got pink right now.
How do you balance making the art that you love versus the things that sell?
It's kind of complicated because at first I was like always trying to make things that would sell and none of it would ever sell. And that was kind of the problem. And then I realized you have to make what you love. It's the only way because there's just no passion in the stuff that you're making that isn't what you love. And I feel like people can tell. And when you're trying to sell it in person, like when you're at a con, you're selling your products, obviously, but you're also kind of selling yourself. Like people want to know the artist, they want to know the brand, they want to understand you. And so it's like when I'm selling stuff with frogs and they run up and they say, "Oh, this is a glass frog," or "This is an Amazon milk frog," like they expect me to know that. You know what I mean? Like, and I do. And I say, "Oh my God, I saw one of these once and it was crazy." You know what I mean? And that's like the best part of it. Like all I sell cat pins and every cat pin has a name and they're all named after cats that I know. So when people come up and they see the display has names, they always ask why they're named. And then I get to pull out pictures of all these cats and we get to look at them together. And it's just such a personal thing.
There was a story attached to it. So people are more interested in your work.
Yeah, and it's like it just makes it more personal.
So how do you go about pricing these things?
The easiest way is to just look at similar items, in the artist alley. I have kind of a standard rule where I need to make at least like twice what I put into it, which I think comes about whenever you realize, oh, I'm in the hole and I have so much credit card debt. You're like, why is this happening? And I was like, oh, because I'm giving my stuff away for way too low. Like let's say the pin is 15 bucks. Okay, so the per piece is probably like $4. You're like, wow, you're making a ton of money on that. No, because when it's on Etsy, Etsy takes their cut of the pie, which is way too much. And so really that 15 turns into like 11.50. And then I gotta put it in packaging because everything I do has really cute packaging, which is part of the brand. So like that's something people expect.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I like keeping it all consistent, makes it easy, makes it cute. Um, and then you have like shipping materials and you have your own time and like all of these things that matter. And if you're at a show, well, you spent $1,000 on the table. So you better account for that in your product prices, or you're going to be like, wow, I made no money and lost all this product. So there's a lot that goes into it, really. But if you're in doubt, you're like, oh, am I charging enough? Am I charging too much? Take a look at similar items, whether it's on Etsy or at the Artist Alley, and that'll really help. You'll notice that there's standard pricing. Pins are typically around $15. Stickers are $4 or $5. Like keychains can be anywhere from like 10 to 20, like so it just helps.
What are some strategies that you use to market yourself when you're at these conventions to get sales?
Well, part of the problem is that I don't go there like, oh, I'm gonna make sales. I should. I really should. But I'm just like so glad to be there. And then I talk a lot. And that is helpful. When you're sitting at your table, it's helpful to not be on your phone. And I
Yeah,
know a lot of artists love to draw while they're doing the shows, but when people have like social anxiety, even a little, they hate to interrupt you. So I've seen people miss out on obvious sales just because like they're drawing, which is totally, I get it. Like, especially at a slow show, I got my iPad out, I'm drawing.
right.
But when you think about like the audience that you're gonna have, there are a lot of people with anxiety. And because shows are just such a safe space.
Right.
And so a lot of people, whether they're like younger or not, like they're not gonna want to interrupt you if you're doing something. So I recommend making eye contact and saying hello, which sounds like such a simple thing, but it is the most effective thing because then they know they can ask you a question. They know that and if they don't want to talk, they don't. They go.
People just look.
They give you the little smile though. And that doesn't mean they're not going to buy anything either. Like sometimes they just don't like talking, and that's okay. But I think just like paying attention to the customer is the most important thing. I don't even know that it's a strategy. It's just like a thing that I've observed. But even with myself, like it's that thing. Look at yourself. When you walk around the artist alley, like are you more inclined to shop from the person that's talking to you, that's friendly, or the person that didn't look at you?
Yes, understand. Yeah, yeah. I do the same thing. I try to stand as much as possible, and then like as soon as someone walks up, hey, how you doing? Even if I'm like to come at them at an angle where I'm trying to sell you something, I'll like
Yeah.
find about them that I like, and then talk to them about that first.
That's great. I don't stand now also because I can't. But even when I could, I didn't. And the only reason is because I found that people looked intimidated. Like they thought that I was gonna like jump down their throat and say something to them. But I know other vendors who stand all weekend and have a lot of success. So I really, it's like whatever is more comfortable for you for sure. Me standing at a show, wow, you're so inconsiderate for saying that.
Well, it's like I get it because I'm taller than usually a lot of the people because they're just younger, and I'm kind of muscular because I go to the gym and whatnot. So like
Humble brag. Okay.
it's intimidating to have that person standing in front of you, like, "Hey, how you doing?" and like looking down at you. So,
Yeah, my friend and I, we have a term that we use like when the weekend's been really bad and like we really need to get some sales. She'll go like, "Okay, time to be a Renaissance lady." Because we were at a Renaissance fair once and this lady like yelled at me until I came over and bought something. And it was because I was so awkward and shy and I like it worked because I, I was so scared. So I was like, she was so aggressive. And then we avoided that part of the Ren Fair the rest of the weekend. Um,
Yeah, but
so Cayenne will be like, all right, time to be a Ren Fair lady. And she'll stand up and she'll be like, hey, do you like frogs? Like at people. And she gets a lot of sales doing that. It's just really funny because like it is intimidating and we are aware it's intimidating. And we try not to use that tactic until we're desperate.
what was a most like shocking moment for you? Like maybe was it a milestone or anything of your sales or anything like that?
I think the most, and you would think, oh, it's got to be sales related, it's got to be growth related. The most powerful moment that has ever happened to me is that I was at Steel City Con and I was selling mystery bags to this group of friends. They kept coming back because they love them so much, and I always love that.
Right?
And then they came back later and they had made me fan art of my frogs. And they were like, we went back to the hotel and we made this for you. And I literally, whenever they handed it to me, I was like, oh wow, thank you. And then like I went behind the table and they left and then, and then I cried. And I was like, that was so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, I probably just came off like I didn't care because I was trying not to ugly cry right in front of them. But it was just so touching. I was like, this is so sweet. And they came by later on and I went over and I was like, hey, I wanted to let you know. That was so sweet. I literally cried. I was like, that's why I ran away. Like it wasn't because I didn't like it. It was because I liked it so much I cried. But it was so wonderful. I have them sitting in my living room, my little frogs sitting in my living room. I look at them every day.
Now, what do you plan on doing with the frogs? Other projects maybe like books or just branching out to anything?
Yeah, definitely thinking about doing children's books, which I think would be fun. I would really love for the frogs to be like my favorite thing is when at a show somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, hey, Clyde," because they just know their names.
Right.
That's my favorite thing. I want as many people to know their names as possible. I just think like everything started somewhere. So I'm hoping that they could keep growing and become something that like my niece and her friends could talk about, because my niece, she already knows all their names and she will correct you if you're wrong. She'll say, "No, that's Benny." Like get it right. Yeah, it's so cute. But yeah, I definitely going to be working on children's books. They're kind of in the process of being made right now, but it's really a lot of self-motivation. That's where the problem is right now. So here's the other side of being full-time is being your own boss. And my boss is so lenient. She just lets me get away with anything. I really need to buckle down. It's a problem. But when that day comes that I'm on ADHD medication and I can sit down and do something, I'm gonna get so much done.
One final thing, we actually blew through this really quick. We're almost at the end. That's awesome. Do you have any final advice for people who are just beginning and want to become a full-time artist?
Just do it. And I don't mean it in like a, oh, just quit your like just do I mean just make the art.
Mhm.
Like just make it.
Right.
You're gonna sit there and be like, oh, I should be posting every day. I should be drawing every day. Draw once a month. Who cares? Just do it. Because like if you start drawing every day and you realize this isn't for me, then it's not for you. If you start drawing all the time and you love it, just keep doing it and the success will follow. It's just committing and just doing it. Because that was my biggest hang up is
Mm,
that I could have started my business so much earlier. I don't think the designs would have been high quality, I'll be honest. But it was something that I wanted to do for so long.
right.
And then I finally just posted a single sticker on Instagram or on Etsy because I was like, oh, you shouldn't launch a shop with less than 10 items.
Mm,
You hear these like little things. And so I was like, I should wait until I have 10 items. And then I pushed it off like so much. And I should have just done it. So just do it.
Like Nike says, just do it.
Yep. They did some right there.
All righty. Well, it was great having you here, Monica. Tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs and your tour dates or anything like that.
Yeah, multicolormind.com or multicolormind on Instagram. That'll take you to all of my stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here, and I appreciate you so much. And we'll catch each other on the road, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.